Hello, everybody. Reggie Time here, and in just a moment, I'm going to be talking with a gentleman called Martin. Martin is in my Facebook group. He's had a pretty tough time last year or so. Things haven't been going well for him. It doesn't matter what the details are, but basically, life's given him a bit of a raw deal, and he asked in the poker group for some advice on getting coaching, maybe getting coaching for profit, etc. He only plays 5 now at the minute. Chances of getting a decent coaching for profit deal, I think, are slim unless you go with something like that Best Poker Coaching. It might not even be a thing anymore, and they're a bunch of wankers, so probably not. And when you play 5-0, paying for coaching, it can be expensive. You're unlikely to find a coach for less than fucking 40 odd quid an hour. And I just felt sorry for him. So I've reached out to him and told him that I would help him. Don't want any money, but if we could record our sessions. So this is the first session you're about to watch of Martin and I. He's playing some, the hands are from 5-0 on PokerStars. The kind of things we talk about are not going to be insanely theory based or anything like that. I'm not really a theory based player. I tried converting to one, didn't enjoy it, didn't do great. That's where this part in the graph went. It was like, yeah, Reg, try to play theory. Oh, fucking hell, Reg, you stink at theory. That's like whatever that is, however many fucking hands, 291,000 to 25k hands of absolute dog shit. And this is my graph overall. We're just putting it there because it just started the video and it's quite sexy. So yeah, it's not going to be theory based. It's going to be me, my opinions about poker, about the state of poker, about microstakes poker, how to play, how to do well in it, in the modern sphere. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and yeah, I hope you guys get some from it. It's not a spam video. It's not a show. It's just content for the channel. I'm struggling for content for the channel. I'm not planning on doing any coaching anytime soon. Maybe later in the year when there's less reason to leave the house and more people playing poker and I got more reason to stay in. Maybe then I'll think about it. But it's just me, hopefully helping some guy out, and hopefully we can help Martin turn himself into a winning player. So without further ado, enjoy the video and let's get stuck in with Martin. Right, away we go, fella. Take it away.
Okay.
So I'm not saying we should 4-bet this, but did you even consider 4-betting? What was your thought when he 3-bets? What was that immediate thoughts going through your mind?
What a 3-bet?
Not when he 3-bets. You've opened, he's 3-bet to, what was it, 10 bigs? Was it just over 10 bigs, something like that? So what were you thinking or what do you typically think when
it's quite strong range, especially in a small blind. His stats are pretty standard. So I think pocket pairs or ace.
So when you say he's got quite a strong range, do you mean that he's got a strong range as in only good hands, or he's got a strong range as in you think this guy might be relatively well studied and he's finding at least some of the lighter 3-bets? Or do you think these are 5-0 games, are they?
Yeah, 5-0.
Yeah. Or do you think it's more like these guys are finding all the strong hands, so they're finding all the 9s plus, they're finding all the ace queens, all the ace kings, all the ace jack suiteds, but then maybe not finding the lighter 3-bets, like the shitty king x suiteds and the occasional bit of suited connectors. So when you say strong range, do you think he's a strong player playing his range as well, or do you think he's just typical, not this player in particular, because we haven't got enough sample on him, but population in general? When you see these stats, 2016, 3-bet 5% over a small sample, say this was over 560 hands with those stats.
Yeah.
How would you think about his range, bearing in mind the stats you've got?
I think he'd be quite a strong player.
But what do you think his 3-bet range looks like?
Quite strong, and sometimes some weaker hands, especially because my range is quite loose from the button.
Yeah, and that's a completely fair assumption until you see that 3-bet of 5%. Now he might be somebody who's over 56 hands. We've got to ignore it.
Yeah.
But if we imagine this was 560 or 5,600 hands, and then they had a 3-bet of 5%. I think then it isn't a strong range. Sorry, it's not a strong player. It's just, it's a nit, basically. It's someone who's pretty nitty. 5% of hands is next to nothing. I mean, it's aces, kings, queens, ace, king, and then a few other little bits, you know.
All the top
I'm they're probably not doing too much 3-bet folding, which is why I think, you know, for a lot of players here, that, you know, it's like pretty standard thought process to like 4-bet things like ace-5 suited, ace-4 suited. And then against this type of player, assuming that this sample was, say, 10 times or better bigger, I think it'd be pretty punty against this sort of player. And that's something that when I have worked with people in the past, or when I have conversations with players, like, oh, you need to like 4-bet this hand. But if the guys you're playing against start 3-betting wide enough, it would be a torch, which is why I prefer the call to the 4-bet. Now, if this guy had like an 11% 3-bet, or maybe even 9 or 10, then I'm much more in line with 4-betting, because you know your 4-bet's going to have some fold equity. I think against this type of player, assuming that these stats are going to, you know, like be similar 10 times more hands down the line, I think it's probably not even plus EV to do it, because they're just going to like have all the strong hands that are just going to be able to defend against your 4-bet that you're doing pretty fucking badly against. And they don't have enough like 3-bets to begin with, and when they do have them, they're probably just going to fold them. So you end up just isolating yourself against really strong hands. So I say, you're really careful. The sample size here is nothing. We just got to assume this guy's a reg. We know nothing more about him. But just be careful that when you see that 5% over bigger samples, but you see that 2016, like, oh, this guy's a reg, he's going to be finding the lighter 3-bets. Probably not. It's 5 and L. Most people aren't finding the lighter 3-bets anywhere near high enough frequency for us to want to like start making some pretty major adjustments against them. But anyways, yeah, as played, I like the call and I like the flop too. So what happens? Does he check to us, or have we not seen yet? So he's bet 1/3 pot, which is bog standard, standard as hell. Again, don't go too fast, please, fella.
Oh, sorry.
Because like we've got an option here where we could think about raising because we've just got a shit ton of equity. I think versus that side, I think calling is just fine. But again, at the minute, we're just looking at someone who's probably a bog standard tight reg. Yeah, it's like, what do we think they're like? Do we think these players who are like playing pretty nitty from the small blind, do we think they're over c-betting or under c-betting?
Probably over c-betting.
Yeah, I think so too, probably. Because the range is so narrow to begin with, they know that. And I imagine that, there's so many of these players who just like 3-bet, c-bet 1/3 pot, and then again, there's no point doing it with this guy because you haven't got a big enough sample, but you're going to your HUD and they'll have like an 85% plus c-bet. So I think this isn't the worst spot, even if we didn't have a good hand, wouldn't be the worst spot to just float and make him play some turns and rivers out of position. I think with the hand we've got, I think we can literally go either way here. Raise. Wouldn't want to get it in, but we'd have enough equity where we'd raise and 3-bets, right, okay, time to get there against kings or whatever. But I don't hate the fold. I don't hate the call in general against these 1/3 size bets, especially against these kind of like robotic type players, because they're just going to be so face up on the turn. And it just
especially if he's barreling, you know, get a diamond as well.
Yeah. If he keeps barreling, we could just, I mean, there's no turn we're folding on in this spot because we're going to have too much equity. But quite often we might not have the ace-5 suited. We might have, you know, like, I don't know, something like pocket 7s, pocket 3s, whatever. And I would still always float these bets against these players who might be a touch robotic, who are like, yep, a 3-bet this range, a c-bet 1/3 close to 100%. And then on the turn, I start playing my hand face up. So I think these guys can be quite easy to exploit, these guys who were doing the c-bet 1/3 c-bet as their like standard line at an incredibly high frequency. So yeah, I think just call here, but I think call with almost everything and then turn, expect them to play ready, honestly. That's my usual strategy against this type of opponent. So yeah, we like the call. Let's see what the turn brings. That's a pretty rubbish turn, but we're still not folding. We're still calling all bets, I imagine, unless he does something crazy.
Do you want me to come in?
Yeah, just see what he does. So he bets 1/3 again. This doesn't strike me as being particularly strong, this line.
It's standard, isn't it?
I'm not sure it is standard. I think like on the turn, they're probably going to want to be using like checks and larger bets, maybe this is okay. But if we just call here, he's not set himself up for a river shove. If he had like a really strong hand here, you would imagine he'd want to use a size that allows him to get all in on the river without having to overbet. So this doesn't strike me as a hand that sorry, as a range that's looking to get all in. So it's a matter of now, do we want to like bluff raise and try and get him up? Because he could just be trying to pot control here with a hand like pocket jacks. He might just be continually trying to like just get to cheapish showdowns with hands that haven't improved, like an ace jack, an ace king, that type of thing. It doesn't reek of strength, this, but our problem is our hand still falls to some of his value. So I'm not sure if we want to just maybe consider raising here. I mean, it stinks when he jams because we're going to need to get there. But to me, it doesn't feel like he's like ultra strong here. Like, it doesn't feel like aces, kings, pocket queens, ace queens. I think all those hands typically from this type of play would maybe go a little bit bigger to set up stacks for a river shove. So I don't know if it's worth trying to make a hand like pocket jacks fold here, pocket nines fold here, or maybe just take our odds. And I think probably because we're getting such a good price, just take our odds. I think that if you bet bigger, it's a bit tougher. But yeah, I think we like just calling, and then river. So we river two pairs.
Let's carry on. Yeah.
Yeah. See what he does. He checks. So we just got the best hand here, or pretty much always. Now it's just a matter of what do we think his range looks like. I mean, to me, it looks a lot like pocket jacks, maybe something like king queen, maybe something like if he's checking the ace, he might have kings and just not size very well on the turn. But I just think there's so much value to be had. I mean, hopefully the dream is he's got ace king, and now he's just like, oh, I don't want to bet and get raised. So what do you think we should do?
I think I should bet for value.
Agreed. What size though?
Probably around half pot.
So why not bigger? What are you targeting when you go and say you want to go half pot? What are you hoping he calls with?
Probably jacks or king queen.
See, I think jacks. I suspect jacks is probably folding no matter what size we bet. Queen X. Because we don't rate to have too much ace X ourselves. We've called a 3-bet and we've only called twice. So we don't get to this with very much ace X. I guess ace queen that didn't 4-bet. The hand we've got, ace 5, maybe some nut flush draws, but we don't have loads of ace X. We look a lot like we've got maybe some sort of draw that's missed, and there's plenty of them available. We've probably got stuff like 6-7 suited here, 7-8 suited here. Wheel aces that have missed, like ace deuce, ace 3, although they're now an ace. We've got like diamonds that have missed, maybe some clubs that have missed too, like jack 9, diamonds and clubs probably get here this way versus his sizing. So I think we have like lots of potential bluffs available to us and like not loads of value. So I actually think I prefer going all in here and just like hoping he's got ace king, hoping he's got ace jack, and just like getting and putting like max pressure on his queen X. Because if we did have a hand like jack 9 suited or 8-7 suited, you wouldn't go half pot as a bluff, I imagine.
No.
So like I think like our only size here should really be all in with our bluffs and with our value. Because it's not just like, oh, I've got a good hand, I want to get paid, so I'm going to bet 30 bigs. That's in a complete isolation in a vacuum, that's completely fine. You know, if that's how you want to play that, right? I'm going to bet half pot because I want king queen to call. But then if you're going to bet half pot with ace 5 here, if you're going to jam with king jack because it's a nuts, and what have you, you don't really want to be having those kinds of sizing tells. I think we've got left here like an SPR of like 1.3, something like 1.2. I think our only size here should be like pretty much just all in and check or all in, I think, yeah, because that's what our strongest value wants to do. It's also what our bluffs want to do.
Yeah, I'll go half pot.
And he folds, yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, he certainly wasn't calling an all in, was it? Or perversely, maybe he's more likely to call an all in because it's more polarized too. Seems unlikely, but you never know. But does that make sense to you, like on the river, why you don't want to use this size specifically? If you imagine you had King Jack here, what size would you have used then?
Probably bigger.
Yeah, and if you had a bluff, if you had a misdraw, you probably would have gone bigger.
Yeah.
So can you understand why it's probably not great to do this with?
Yeah, it's quite telling sometimes.
Yeah, we're just giving our hand strength away. If I played against somebody who demonstrated like very clear and obvious, like if they basically just sized the river to like the strength of their hand, they become very easy to exploit.
Mm-hmm. No,
and you don't want to be that. Now these guys aren't going to be going out of the way to exploit anyone. It's 5-0, but that's not the point. You just you don't want to. I do lots of things, and I when I'm trying to help people get better, I try and help them to like find exploits that then make them exploitable themselves, but only against players who are unlikely to notice and like re-exploit them. Now this guy might, because he's a reg of some description. You know, the players we don't mind being exploitable against. I'd bet the size of my hand against a fish all day, every day. But against someone who I think might be paying attention, I would try and like just use the same size for everything as best I could.
It definitely makes sense.
So yeah, just against who you're up against people who are unlikely to exploit you, take the highest EV line for your hand. Against players you think might twig on long term, then probably just try and find whatever like your range wants to do rather than what your hand wants to do. So against regulars or players you think might be good, kind of always think in terms of what does my range want to do here, and against fish, fuck all that nonsense. Just what does my hand specifically want to do? What is the highest EV for my hand, in my opinion? And then just go with that.
It definitely makes sense. I didn't think about it that much, like these sort of bet sizing.
Let's have a look at another one, fella.
Finish it. There was one. I think this was quite similar. Can we carry on yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're ready.
So we've got a proper filthy nit in the big blind over a small sample.
Okie
dokie. So heat check. So what's the plan here?
I'd bet, I think.
Yeah, I agree. What size and for like what kind of hands are you like thinking about the big blind? It's a little bit too early to start thinking about ranges too much, other than the fact he's a nit, so he's likely going to be under defending the big blind, so his range is probably a little bit stronger. I tend not to start trying to like assign ranges to people until the turn. Get a bit more information before I start thinking about what ranges look like. But what would you be typically thinking on this? Apart from the fact, fucking hell, what a flop. I've got top pair, good kicker and a flush draw. What other thoughts do you typically have in these situations?
I think I got the best equity in the hand so far. I think he could have anything like King Queen, block one of them, King Jack, Ace Jack, even maybe pocket pairs, wait down 4-bet, 3-bet.
Yeah, he can also probably have like plenty of just suited stuff. Even though he looks like he's a nit, he's probably still going to defend quite a lot of suited stuff. And hopefully we've got him cooler to shit. So what size do you think you should go?
Probably around 4 bigs.
Yeah, I like bigger. I like bigger here. I like bigger here because we've got a strong value hand. We've got a good chance of getting like 2 streets of value from hands we've got absolutely crushed, like flush draws, or if he's just got, say, an 8 or a 6 or something like that, or maybe he's got a worse jack. I think like a lot of like players here would just be like, oh, I'd see bet 1/3 in position, move on. But I think this is the sort of board, and this is the sort of player who we can just like we're not worried about him picking up on too much that we're doing, because he looks like a pretty thoughtless nit. So against a better player here, I think we'd probably want to have the occasional check back and maybe have 2 different sizings on the flop just to like keep them off balance a little bit. But I think against this guy, I agree with you. Just like let's just do some big betting and like target his jack X, target his worst flush draws, target his straight draws, his like second pairs, etc. That are all going to call at least 1, probably 2 streets.
I'll probably do something different now.
Yeah, I had a feeling that you might do that. because like that you seem to enjoy half pot from the limited conversations we've had so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like a lot of people are comfortable with half pot. It's a bit catch-all. It's not a small bet. It's not a big bet. And a lot of players are just comfortable just hitting the half pot button. It's a very comfortable bet to make.
I think the previous end that you mentioned, well, the previous end we went through just that I would have gone bigger if I was playing it down, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's kind of why we're hoping to help you a little bit. Yeah, to be like, don't just like auto. When we first chatted last week, you had like a lot of like we talked about your ranges and things, didn't we? And you had a lot of just like unstudied, relatively like lazy-ish reg stuff about you. Where right, I'm only opening the pretty hands. I'm not really paying much attention to position. I'm not putting too much thought into post flop. It was just kind of like I'm just going to play pretty hands, and I'm just going to like splash around a little bit, and we can just do so much better than that because that's what most of the pool's doing. And we just want to be better than that. You know, we're not going to make tons of money from regs. We make nearly all of our money from fish, from value betting against fish. But spots like this against these types of players are spots where we can definitely eke out a bit more edge if we just put a bit more thought into how we want to exploit. Like with a slightly weaker hand here, we'd probably go 1/3 pot against this guy. If we had a set of sixes, we could probably go really big against this guy because I think it's going to be relatively. He's not going to care. He's not going to be that size sensitive on the flop. If he's got a hand he wants to continue with because he's a nit, he's not really going to adjust to your size. Whereas slightly better players maybe will slightly adjust to ranges. So yeah, when you're up against this guy, we've got a boatload of equity. Just like put money in the pot while we like our equity and put like decent money in the pot while we like our equity. I mean, the turn could change everything. The turn could come like a king of diamonds. Sorry, not a king, because that would give us any better. Come like an ace, and all of a sudden we still like our hand. It's pretty, but it's going to be a lot harder to start getting value. So yeah, start putting lots of money in the pot while we're really confident in our equity.
Yeah, definitely makes sense now. Yeah, just cause.
Oh, yes, that's a nice turn.
He checks.
So what's our range going to look like for betting? Just take it back. Sorry. What's our range going to look like for betting here? When we've seen bet this flop half pot and then a turn that comes to 7 of clubs, who do you think generally this turn card's better for?
Him, I think, in the range.
I agree. So theory would have us checking back a lot here. And you know, when we do bet, just bet pretty big. So that's what theory would have us doing because it's such a good card for the big blinds range. Not that good. I mean, it's good for our actual hand, but not that good for our range. You know, if we have pocket aces, for example, we don't without a club, we don't like that turn card. So that's like an example of all the other pairs without a club don't like it. Even the ones with the club aren't in love with it. Our Jack X has just shrunk a little bit. Our sets has just shrunk. Maybe that gives him some 2 pairs. I mean, it's just all in all, it's a pretty crap card for our range. So we should be doing a lot of checking. But I noticed that you bet 7. Okay. I like that. No, I like that because we should be doing a lot of checking. So when we're not checking, we absolutely should go with big sizes. And I think we can maybe go even bigger than this because this is like 60 2/3 pot. I think we probably want to be a bit more polar than that. On this, it's still like it's kind of like a wishy-washy bet size 2/3, but I use it a lot against fish. But I think when we're polarized, when we're going to try and polarize ourselves against a nit, I think I prefer going bigger. I wouldn't imagine seeing you going like maybe closer to full pot, something like that. It's just such a good card for his range, expecting to have like loads of hands that are just like auto folding, and then hands that are just never folding. So, like, if he's auto-folding, he's probably going to fold to half pot, 2/3 pot. So that the times he is calling, we just want to
big box.
Make larger bets, yeah.
Nice.
Beautiful. Well, say beautiful. So what do we think? Do we think...
You could have a flush, I guess, or
yeah, I was going to say, what do we think? I don't want to lead you, really. What do you think he's more weighted towards here? Bluffs or value?
Probably value being a nit.
Yeah, I agree. How do you think we should now respond against that with this hand specifically?
Probably raise it. Do you think?
I don't know about raise because he's like, fair enough, he's used a really shit sizing, but he's check min raise a turn. He's taking a polarized light. He's using a fucking awful sizing, but he's like relatively polarized here to like bluffs or hands that he's absolutely in love with. The problem is if we 3-bet here, then yeah, he's probably not going to fold a worse flush. But there's not that many worse flushes out there. Like if he's got 10-9 of clubs, for example, that's a straight flush. Not saying he's definitely got that, but because we've got the king and the jack, you know, like there's some flushes that have queen 10 of clubs, ace 10 of clubs. Queen 10 of clubs that we're beating. Jack, they can't have jack 10 of clubs. So like, in terms of like how many more worse hands are going to call, I don't think there are that many. So I don't think I like raising just yet. I think I prefer
just a call,
just calling, then just see what he does on the river, because we're in position, so we can always make sure the bet goes in. But I think it wouldn't be nice here to 3-bet and get jammed on by a player with these stats, because imagine like if he jam. Do you think, for example, if we 3-bet here, is he jamming 4-3 of clubs?
No,
I wouldn't have thought so. And like
over the ace flush, isn't it, or straight flush?
Yes, but yeah, he's. I think like if we raise here, he's never folding a queen high flush, so we get value from that. But he's probably got just as many ace high flushes as queen high flushes. So I just don't think. I don't like the jam. I think I like call, and then decide whether we want to raise a river or not based on his sizing. I think because he's just such a nit, lost my train of thought now. Yeah, he's like such a nit. Yeah, and we're going to get all the value we want from queen high flushes on the river, and we don't really want him to fold anything because we know we've got like the third nuts or whatever it is.
Okay, the next step.
Yep, I like it. We did just call board pairs. That's unideal. But do we think he's got any full houses in his range?
Not really, no.
Neither do I. So that's good. So we're not worried about him like just having overtaken us with a full house. So let's see what he does.
He bets pot size.
So now what's before you click your button? What are you typically thinking?
I was a bit scared of the full ace. I didn't think he'd have it the way he played, but I think he could have. I was hoping he'd have like a weaker flush or straight, possibly.
Yeah, I think this river, even though I don't think it beats us in terms of he's got a full house, I think it now makes it very hard for us to raise. Because when we raise here, we're trying to get called by like a queen high flush. But now the board's paired too, so he's not just got to be scared of us having the nut flush, he's also going to be scared of us having a full house too. Because we would play like jacks this way, we'd play like, you know, we wouldn't raise a turn with anything that's like that's a set or anything like that. So I all of a sudden think now that like King Jack becomes a little bit too thin to shove. Don't know what you think about that.
Yeah.
It's just like worse hands are going to call. Like is he if he has got, say, I don't know, fucking try to think of some flushes like 10 whatever of clubs, like
10 queen of clubs, something like that.
Yeah, queen 10 of clubs. There aren't that many hands that we can get value from here. I don't think, because it's such a nit against a fish. I'm all in all day, I'm not even thinking twice about it, because fishes will call with river. But this guy's a nit. He's checkers. He's repping a very polarized range. We might be beat. You know, he might have the ace high flush. You might be really unlucky. He might have the straight flush. I think this is too thin to raise against this player type. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what you do. But I think it's maybe too thin. It's fine that we might well have the best hand here nearly all of the time. But if we can't jam and be called by worse, then I think there's literally one worse hand that can call. Like queen 9 of clubs, queen 10 of clubs are literally, I think, the only worse hand that can call. He's going to have more nut flushes than just them. He's going to have the occasional full house. He's definitely got the straight flush in his range. So yeah, I think just call. Okay. Even though it just feel a bit nitty.
The straight.
That is interesting that he took that line. I mean, that's from him. That's like it's a pretty bad line, to be fair. It's on the river. Like it literally, he never gets called by like worse than a straight on that river. It's like he's trying to target over pairs, Jack X, and they all fold. You would imagine, or if you're any good, they fold. I don't like his line there. But it's kind of what a lot of these nits do. They play like really tight. I mean, I'm not slagging nits off because I'm kind of pretty nitty myself. They play a little bit too tight, and then when they finally make a hand, and it's like, oh, I can't believe it's beat, and they just put too much money in.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, I would have like put a note on this guy that he like. What would my note say on this guy? He's massively overplayed his hand. I mean, the turn's never a raise. It's certainly not a fucking min raise, and the river's never a pot size shove. I'd probably, I don't know what I'd put. No, I'd have to
think about it.
Yeah, I just have to put like something along the lines of like, how would I put it? Because this is like a kind of merge. He's took a polarized line, where he's like merging here. So I'd probably just put something like medium strength hands in polarized bet size range, something like that. So I didn't like see you because he's took a line that's makes him really polar, and he's turned up with a hand that isn't polarized at all. So I'd put something like like saying in his polarized range, he's not nuts or rare. Something that let me know that when he's using this sizing structure, this sizing scheme, that he isn't nuts or rare, anything like that, because then I'm not going to make too many like folding mistakes against him or too many like hero call mistakes.
Mm-hmm. That's a bit. Oh shit! Well done. Go to the next one.
Yeah.
Oh. This one. Are you ready?
I am ready and willing to go. So we've got a potential loose aggressive player, shit sample. Got a potential reg, shit sample. Okay.
It was a fish.
Now. So, okay, what do you think the line is here?
Not definitely 3-bet still.
4-bet.
4-bet, sorry, yeah, 4-bet. Of course, I think I'll go quite high. Try and get heads up.
So what size are you thinking of using? I've gone with 22. I think that's too small with the fish in the pot.
Oh, okay. What are you going higher?
My initial reaction, as nitty and shitty as it sounds, is just all in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before we put our bet, there's 18 blinds in the pot. That's a lot of blinds.
Mm-hmm.
And the size that I want to go, because like there's extra dead money in the pot, is like pretty fucking big. I wanted to go like upwards of 30 bigs. I mean, we're not bluffing here. Quite simply, it's microstakes poker. When you see this line under the whatever it is, middle position open, cut off 3-bet button, cold call. Small blind doesn't bluff when they just don't. Anyone who thinks they do is fucking lying. Basically, like the weakest 4-bets are going to be like ace king, praying that they don't get fucking fat jammed on. No one's finding these bluffs. Literally nobody. Maybe 1 in a fucking 100 people's finding this bluff. So when we do like put the code 4-bet in here, we are always just fucking nutted. And yeah, I think it's like all in. Because I'd want to go all in with ace king. I think the only hand that's exploitable as fuck, the only hand I wouldn't go all in with was aces. I think. Okay. I think at aces I would just do a non-all-in size, and that is remarkably exploitable. But it's such a rare fucking spot. I don't give a fuck. It's not. You don't want to be exploitable in spots that come up like 50 times a session. This is maybe this comes up once every 10,000 hands or what. I don't know how many, but it's a rare situation where you get like open 3-bet button cold call. Who's a fucking 80v pip? It's an incredibly rare situation. So it doesn't matter what you do in terms of like, oh shit, I'm exploitable. No, you're not. You're not exploitable. I would 4-bet non-all in here with aces, and I would jam kings, queens, and ace king. So I would just be all in.
Okay. So I thought that was pretty big myself.
It's way too small. It's way, way, way too small.
So let's carry on?
Yeah. Okay. Now, who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows? I mean, we've got basically an SPR of like 1.3. Kodiak Rex doesn't have pocket 5C, you wouldn't imagine. Doesn't have pocket 6s. Maybe has pocket 10s. Maybe has the occasional nut flush. I don't fucking know, mate. I genuinely don't know. I mean, just
I
want
don't
to
know,
fucking.
mate. I ain't too sure what I've done now.
I don't want to check
Mm-hmm.
and just
I
give
think-
like 2 ranges a free
Good
shot at hitting. Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean,
I thought it was a bad play that one did.
we've got to think about, like, fine, if Kodiak Rex has us fucked, he has us fucked, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got the 78-28 VPIP guy who can still give us an absolute shit ton of value here on the all-in. And against him, we've basically got an SPR of 1. Yeah, I don't hate this. It's a weird spot. I don't hate it. If we've had our dick cooler off, if we've been outflopped, we've been outflopped. I really don't hate this. I don't know. I don't know what the actual correct play would be. I don't even know if there is a fucking correct play. I don't know if anyone's bothering studying these spots because they're so. I mean, how often do you get a cold 4-bet pot that goes 3 ways to the flop and then you get a 10-eye mullet? I mean, no one's studying this shit. I don't know. I don't hate this because if Kodiak Rex calls, we might be in trouble. But against Bryce Wayne, we can just get so much value. Yeah, just do what you've done, I guess. Just do what you've done. Yeah, that's unideal.
He folds.
And now we just hope to hold, I guess. I hope he's got queen to something. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. I was thinking, like, if we'd made it bigger pre-made. But yeah, we've got kings. We don't want people to fold jacks. So that's just like, it's impossible to result oriented about this hand. You know, we've managed to cram lots of money in with like a pretty strong. I mean, what's he on the flop equity wise? He's got like 12 outs, 11 outs, something like that. So we give him the wrong price. He's called and he's got there. Never mind, move along. But yeah, I think pre-flop, just all in, is going to be a far better play. Not all in with aces, but all in with anything else that wants to continue.
Okay. Okay.
Okie dokie. So, in general, what's your thoughts about what your range wants to do in this spot?
My range probably being on the gun's quite strong, so probably see a bit. Probably about 6 big blinds.
So you say your range is quite strong here, and we have strong hands in our range, but how actually strong is our range here in terms of our overall range? Like, we have 4 combos of Jack Queen suited, definitely. We have all the sets. So you're right, we do have some, like, in terms of nut advantage, we're doing really well here. But like, if you had pocket jacks here, if you had pocket 8s, pocket aces, would you want to go 6 blinds with all of those too?
Well, probably, yeah.
Yeah? I don't think we would. I don't think this is a spot where we want to start by building a massive pot with our entire range. Yeah, our nutted hands want to, but our entire range doesn't want to. The thing that's making me want to bet big, though, is Mario Angler. We've got this guy in that middle position who's a nit. We've got Mario Angler who looks like he's going to be like some kind of fish. I still think overall, though, we probably out of position multi-way. We just want to be doing an absolute fucking ton of range checking. So I think we probably just need to check our range here. Even though we've got a really strong hand, I think out of position to 2 people, I think we probably just want to range check. We certainly don't want to be big betting. And that, I mean, I don't want to go too fucking like theory based with anything. We're not talking with other players, especially players who aren't too experienced. I think it's such a fucking quagmire of like, don't do this, do that. And I think it hurts people more than it helps them. I like to try and like talk more about what actually happens in these games against real people rather than like what happens in theory in like a toy game fucking world. So I think
Yeah.
like, but I still think in this spot in general, we want to be like not just because Sol wants to do it. I think in general we want to be. I'm just going to have to try and ignore that phone. It's doing me fucking head in. I think in general, we just want to out of position multi-way. We just want to be doing a lot of checking in general, setting up check raises, setting up check calls, check folding pretty tight. For example, if I had like King Jack here, I wouldn't want to bet, and I wouldn't even be that comfortable in check calling. I mean, I would of course, but even a hand as strong as like King Jack here in absolute strength, King top pair, no good shots, pretty good. In like relative strength of this board, it's relatively weak. So I think like when you've got hands like King Queen and King Jack that aren't that strong that in your range, that don't want to bet, when you've got hands like aces that don't necessarily want to bet, I just think that's check your entire range and then think about like devising a check raise range against certain player types.
Especially if it's...
Yeah, I mean, if we bet big here and we get called, there's so many turn cards where we're just going to be like, shit, now what?
Scared of. Don't you read?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Now what?
I think I'd call him. He's quite fishy. Could have King X anything. This one's I'm a bit worried about in case he calls. He's pretty nitty.
So what do you think? What do you think you should do? Let's say we're committed against Mario Angler. It doesn't matter. If this was heads up now, we'd just be all in, and that'd be that. So with our concern, the person of concern is whatever, Diamond Bebby. We just call him Bebby. Do we think Bebby's got pocket kings?
No.
No. Do we think Bebby's got maybe a flush draw, maybe a hand like pocket jacks, something like that?
I think it could be chasing something like the straight or flush.
But I think what I'm trying to get at is like there's only 4 hands he can possibly have that have a beat, and he sometimes raises them because if he has got say Jack Queen of diamonds probably doesn't raise, Jack Queen of spades maybe doesn't, the other 2 Jack Queens probably do, because even if in theory you don't want to, in practice, humans will be like, oh, I've got the nuts, but fuck me, that's a scary board. I don't want to see a diamond. I don't want to see the board pair, blah, blah, blah. Let's just fucking raise now while I've got the nuts. That's how humans think. So I think here...
I think he's chasing something.
I wouldn't call, because I don't want to be left in a situation on the turn where a jack comes, a diamond comes, a queen comes, an ace comes, and, like King X gets scared. I think we just put the money in now, and if we've had our dick cooled enough, we just need to get there. I think there's a good chance Mario Angler might have the straight, but who cares? We've got middle set on a very connected board, and we think that the guy with the most chips is probably relatively capped. And if he has got Jack Queen, then we're drawing very live against that anyway. So yeah, I think I'd just probably just all in.
Yeah,
I think.
I'll just call.
I think you're storing up problems for down the line with the call. I think that's the problem. That's the issue I have with
in the feature streets.
Yeah, I mean, we just get it in now. We like our equity. If we're cooled, we're cooled. I said there's bad cards that come that can like not only beat us but also kill our action. We might have the best hand here, but if the ace of diamonds comes off, we might just check down and fucking like not get the rest of Mario Angler's 30 blinds with his king queen or whatever, because he sees the ace of diamonds and just wants to check it down. So I think like there's just like too many bad cards for both our, like, in terms of they're just going to suck out on us. But even if they don't suck out on us, they're going to make it really hard for us to get value. And we've got a very strong hand. This is part of the reason why we check. We check to put raises in, put this guy Bebby in the sandwich. So I'm just all in.
Yeah, and he folds anyway. Bebby.
So now we have to check the turn. And he's probably going to shove, but he might just slow down now and like pot control with his King X or whatever. But why have we led? Right, okay. So we've just called the flop raise. The turn is a veritable break. Why have we started leading?
I'm just hoping that it's called it the King X as well now.
But what do you think he's going to do with King X when we check?
Bet.
Yeah.
So it's just wait, shouldn't I?
Yeah, this is just like, this is nonsense from you to be fair. And I don't know you well enough to be too rude, but this is just pure nonsense. You know, we've called a raise and then we just want to start leading on the 5. It's, I mean, you might get lucky and you might just get called, you might just get paid off anyway. But, you know, we called the raise because, and presumably because we're trying to trap the guy.
Yeah.
So if we're trying to trap the guy, why on earth do we start betting?
don't know.
The only reason to call is to trap. Either that or you're shitting your knickers because he might have Jack Queen. And if you're doing that, then turn the computer off and go and play drafts or something. Yeah, see, I'm going to assume that we've called to trap. And if we've called to trap, why on earth are we leading a brick doesn't make sense. Like, oh, we've got this great plan. Oh, but all of a sudden there's 2 flush draws. I don't want to check in case he checks back. Now, this is what this is. This is just you scared of letting a draw get there.
I know.
So I'm putting the money in.
See, watching it back now, I realise that what I should have done, but I just need to do that in real time.
Yeah, what this tells me is that you, how do I want to put this? You haven't got that many like default lines that you take. You kind of respond to basically everything you do is in response to the board. And so you're thinking all the time you're just playing your actual hand rather than like, what does my range want to do, but also playing your opponent's range. I mean, your opponent's range here is pretty much King X that's going to bet anyway. It's flush draws that are going to bet anyway, and it's the nuts. There's no reason to think he's not going to bet this turn. So if you were thinking about your opponent's range, you wouldn't do this because you would think, well, he's going to bet nearly all the time anyway. So you wouldn't do this, but you haven't given enough thought to your opponent's range here. You've just been like, this board, there's another flush draw out there now. I don't want it checking through, so I'm just betting. But if you think about like what's happened in the hand so far, it's not that likely to check through. He's very likely if he is in there with like the king, he's going to be having them same thoughts you're having. Fucking hell, look at all them draws. Bang, I'm all in. So yeah, this just very much, and I think it's in every hand we've looked at so far. You've kind of done exactly what your hand wants to do, which. Against bad players, as I talked about earlier, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But against regulars, players, you don't. Yeah, you don't want to be doing that. So to have it, you want to get out of. Against this player, do I hate this? Not particularly. You know, he's probably going to get all the money anyway. But in general, do you want to be taking this kind of line? Absolutely not. Let's see what happens, fella. Yeah, it's yeah, whatever. Good for him. Good for him.
No, so it definitely makes sense now watching it back. It's just real time. I'm a bit like
when you're playing, how quickly do you act when the action's on you?
Quite quick, actually.
Yeah, stop it. Stop it. There's no reason to.
Think about it.
I mean, if you're playing regular tables on PokerStars, you can only have 4 tables maximum. There is absolutely no reason. And I see it in every game I play everywhere. Every single, well, not every single, but a massive percentage of the players, 90% plus, act too fast. They act on the first instinct and they do it quickly. It's like ripping a fucking plaster off.
Autopilot in a way, sort of thing.
Yeah, stop doing it. And the best, with all due respect, not loving the world, your autopilot game isn't good enough because you're not winning. So, like, to continue acting quickly with your default autopilot game, it's not going to improve you. Just take your time. Unless you've got like a trivial, like pre-flop 7 deuce off, don't stall there. But you know, any time that you're thinking about putting chips in the pot, or any time you're in a pot post flop, and you know there's money, you just need to be like just taking your time and just considering what's happened so far. Think about your opponent's range. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad. You know, just think about, right, what does their range look like, and what's happened so far in this hand. What is the board? And you don't have to like put them on hands. So do I think they're relatively weak, reasonably strong, very strong, and then act accordingly? You know, don't try and put them on a range of like hands as such. Like, oh, I think he might have Queen Jack here. Just right. I think this guy likes his hand. I think this guy doesn't like his hand very much. I think this guy hates his hand. That type of thing. You know, just range people in like instead of like trying to put them on hand and things. Just right, okay. On the flop, this guy looked like he liked his range, but this turn's changed the board significantly. So do I think he's still going to like his range or not? And just take your time and just think about. I mean, you know what your hand is. You kind of know what your range looks like. So you don't spend too much time thinking about your range. Think about your opponent's range. What do you know about them? What stats have they got? What stack size do they have? How have you seen them play previous hands? Just like take time, consider your opponent's range. Then if you think they have a weak range, you need to start thinking about developing more what you've done then, leading. Because if you think people have got weak ranges and they're not going to bet, then there's no sense checking to them. If you think they've got a really strong range, then just check everything. And just try and give a lot more thought. Instead of like just thinking, all right, okay, I've got a set of 10s here, I just bet. Right, okay, I've got a set of 10s. I'm going to put money in no matter what, but what's the best way to put the money in here versus my opponent's range? Where do I think he's at? If I think he's weak and he hasn't got like many he hasn't got a range that wants to do a lot of betting, then I'm going to do the betting. If I think he's got a range that's going to want to do a lot of betting on this turn, but I've got a very strong hand, then I'm going to check and I'm going to consider raising. All those types of things. But take your time, consider your opponent's range, all the factors that have gone on. So that's basic hand reading 101. All the things that have happened so far, it's like the further into a hand you get, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. The more pieces, the more you can see the full picture. And if you're not giving yourself a chance to see the full picture, just let it sink in through like osmosis almost. Let all the information just sink in. Get a feel for where you're at in the hand and then act accordingly. If you're acting within like 2 seconds every time, you're not allowing that process to take place and you're just not going to make good decisions.
No, I think that's true. So watching it back now like this, I realise my mistakes, and when you say it, then I realise that I made a mistake.
Yeah, just slow down. I get how when people are 4-tabled in speed poker, I get how it can just get to a point where you're like manically clicking buttons and like everything happens at 100 miles an hour. 4-tabled in reg tables, just fucking take your time.
Yeah,
just like,
this week I've been on the reg table, so it's a bit slower, so I'll just take my time.
Yeah, just imagine
think about it.
You're some old fella, you have a nice walk down the lanes, bit of straw fucking stuck in your mouth, bit of straw in your mouth, and you're just strolling away, taking in all the scenery and like just enjoying yourself. And like when you're playing cash 4 tables of reg tables, it can be exactly the same thing. There's no reason to rush. Just chill out, take your time, relax, enjoy yourself, and allow all the information to sink in before you make a decision.
No, definitely.
Have we got any more, fella? Or is that it?
I think that's mainly it for today.
Right, okie dokie. Well, obviously you lost all those hands. Hopefully sometime next week we'll have a bit more to go on. And again, like bring the hands where like not like I'm not saying these were like typical setup hands and what have you, but they don't have to be big pots. They can be pots where it's just a single race pot and there's been like a C bet and a call. So you get to a turn where you're 7.5 bigs, but you don't know what to do. Bring the hands like a lot of the standard spots where like, well, these are quite common and I'm not sure what to do. Like the Kings one, that's not common. We could talk about it, but I don't fucking know either. Just go all in. Oh, I've got a good hand and there's a fucking 80 pip in the pot and there's 18 blind in the middle. I'm all in, like proper monk against those guys. There's no need to get the scalpel out. Just get your fucking shovel and or your hammer and your chisel out and just fucking just plow money in. But there's been loads of common spots where fucking hell, I hate this spot. I never know what to do. And if we're going to help you get better, those are the spots where I want to try and give you some better thought processes. Not standard lines or anything. I think anyone who goes around poker trying to have standard lines is a fucking idiot. Unless you're playing massive volume, you don't want to have standard lines. You want to have standard thought processes that lead you to varying conclusions. And that's what we're going to try and put in. So don't think you have to bring all the big exciting pots. But if you're in a spot and you're like, fucking hell, I don't know what to do here, just straight away click mark the hand.
Take it.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's a tiny pot. If you don't know what to do in your spot and it's relatively common, that's going to be way more important trying to help you do better in those spots than what to do with pocket kings in that spot earlier. They're going to come up once every blue moon. We want to attack the spots that come up,
more often.
Yeah, if you played 8,000 hands in a week, you want to attack this. We want to look at the spots that come up fucking 300-400 times and get a little bit better at them. Because if we can improve you by just a couple of big blinds for 100 in those, it'll have a massive difference. The pocket king's hand, whatever, that's just whatever. We're not going to learn anything from that. And yeah, it was a fun discussion point, but it's such a rare occurrence that any discussion from it, it's just It's not going to benefit you day to day.
No, definitely makes sense. Hey?
Is that okay, yeah? So next week?
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
Next week,
for your help
all the smaller pots. No problem, sir. You are welcome. So that's a session with Martin, all done and dusted. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave any comments. Please like, subscribe, all that shit. As I said at the start, I am struggling for content with the channel. I don't really want to show my own play too much. I played a relatively small pool. I don't want people figuring out who I am. I'm currently on a screen name that won't be recognised by anybody. So yeah, I'm struggling for content. So this is going to be a bit of the content going forward. So yeah, hopefully the videos do well. If they don't, I'm still going to continue helping Martin because he seems like a nice guy. But we're going to leave it there for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you made it this far. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, fuck the Tories and fuck anyone that votes for them. And yeah, see you in the next video. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye for now.